little bit of a mixed bag. I think as we added some coverages on defense that challenged our offense a little bit, I don't think we were as sharp as what we were on Tuesday, but you're going to have an ebb and flow. Really encouraged with the 1-2 presence with our running backs between DeWine and Harrison right now, even though we are not in full pads. I think we can really make some hay this next year. Another thing we're encouraged about offensively, John Michael Gillenborg, and we saw him emerging this last year, but just the presence of him out there. Now that's no knock on Trayton at all. Trayton's had so far a really good fall camp, but to have two really explosive tight ends that can stretch the field vertically, I think is really going to help us. Over on defense, a guy that I think continues to show up, Connor Shea, is doing some good things over there, and it's encouraging. Now we're a little bit thin at the linebacker spot. I think we've got three guys who played significantly last year that will not be going through spring football, and so Connor's taken advantage of that repetition. Certainly going outside today is helpful, to be out there with some wind and things like that. Sometimes you can get an unrealistic perspective when you're inside and it's perfect conditions. I know it really had, quite frankly, had an impact on John Hoyland in the kicking game today. He was off a little bit. And so, number 2 day down. We'll have our first padded day come this Saturday. So at this time, questions.
How much confidence do you think that Fresno game gave John Michael?
I think that had some confidence. What really did help him, Ryan, was he really challenged our defense during the course when he was running scout team. I mean, he made a lot of plays, and sometimes a guy can run off cards and just look at arrows, but he made some plays there. But getting in and getting involved in a big-time game like that gave him a sense of, okay, I belong. He's put on some good lean muscle mass. He can run, and he's got really good hand-eye coordination, and so we're going to utilize him this next year.
Caden Becker, I guess, has made the move from quarterback to defensive end. Can
Yep.
you talk about what kind of went into that?
You know what? We knew when we recruited Caden, he was a really big, strong, athletic guy. We rolled the dice a little bit with his throwing ability, and once we started to look at where we were at with his ability, he can run. He's 240-some pounds. He's got good change of direction. Wasn't quite where he needed to be throwing the ball. And so you make educated decisions, or I shouldn't say educated guesses, to say, okay, what's going to be his best long-term outlook? Sometimes quarterbacks have some real opposition to move, and he embraced this move. And so we're going to take a hard look at him this spring, and O'Brien's going to really work with him.
I know it's early, but does he look good? Does he look the part at all?
Not a little bit early, and we'll find out a whole lot more come Saturday when pads come on.
I guess Deshaun Woods, we haven't heard from him at all. What's his status?
Yeah, you know what? Deshaun is not going through spring football. He's working on academics right now, Cody. Yep, that's, I guess, a formal statement. I thought I'd release that out today. Evidently that didn't come out.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, well, I did now. Okay.
Greg, you had talked a little bit about DeWine on Tuesday, but what's been your first impression of Harrison so far?
You know what? He's having to pick up some nuances of running in a pro-style system. I talked to him during practice. For him to be, in a dot position behind a quarterback under center in a pro style, that's completely different from what he's done before. But he's really willing. He does have great explosion. He's got excellent speed. I think this next year, if he can pop in the open field, he'll go a long distance. Good hand-eye coordination. He'll be a good effective weapon out of the backfield also.
Greg, with the portal, it seems like recruiting junior college can be a lost art in some places. What's your philosophy on that right now, and why did Tyrekus Davis stand out to you?
Yeah, when I had him marked to come and talk to this group about him on defense as well, I got into another subject. The first 2 days have really been encouraging for us. And, Tyrekus has taken the long way, had some had to work hard to get where he's at. And at Navarro, we knew some of the coaches there, and we watched him on tape, and Oscar swung by. And one of the things you're always looking for is, okay, does this guy have an entitled attitude? Does he have an attitude that, I'm really athletic? Or is he going to be hungry? And everything that we knew about him has shown to be what he's doing now. He is hungry. He's got really quick feet. He's got a child. The family's here. And I want to say this the right way when you talk about all the change that's going on in college football. One of the things that I believe is going to push us over the edge when I talked about that 2% is guys being hungry and having a chip on their shoulder and not a sense of, well, what's in this for me and what jersey number can I get and what's my NIL deal and what kind of shoes am I going to have and how many times am I going to touch the ball. He's a guy that is hungry, that has good ability, that wants to learn, that listens and wants to be coached. And so I'm really encouraged, and I appreciate you bringing him up because he was a guy that I was going to talk extensively about. And it'll be fun to see him progress. But I can tell you what, there is no sense of entitlement. He is competitive and he's got good ability. And so that's going to give us something to work with. And I'm convinced in today's age, there's still a place for those kind of guys to win.
Greg, after Air Force last year, I can't remember if it was you or somebody else mentioned that preparation for Air Force started last spring.
Yeah.
How much of that do you do, and are you guys already looking at Texas Tech?
We look at a lot of opponents, Cody. We've looked at Texas Tech. Their offense is challenging. Their defense is challenging. I know their defensive coordinator well, but we're looking at that, and there's things that we'll sprinkle in. Typically, we've always looked at some of our first upcoming opponents during spring a little bit, but I can tell you Air Force is always, and we'll look at Air Force again this spring. Air Force is always such a challenge, and so we spend time. That's a ongoing challenge. So we have great respect for the Red Raiders, but I can tell you Air Force has always been a challenge for us as well.
Is that unique to Wyoming because you guys have Air Force in the conference, or have you done this at other schools where in the spring you spend time working on first week opponents?
It depends on where we're at with our football team. It also depends on what type of opponent that we're going to be playing. But I can tell you, if you think you're just going to walk out during game week on a short week on a Friday and get ready for Air Force, you're sadly mistaken. But we'll take them as we come. I do want to say I have watched quite a bit of tape on Texas Tech, and they are real challenging. They're very good well coached with a lot of explosive weapons.
With Peasley's situation, the inconsistency from last year, what type of things can he do to get more of that consistency?
I think, first of all, Tracy, understanding our offense, while he was an older player, he was still inexperienced in our offense. Understanding where to take the ball. We thought he was very competent as far as the run checks. He had a really good understanding, and we're complex in our running game, but he had a really good understanding of that. I think there was times that he pressed on certain things, throwing the ball. A couple of his initial read progressions were out of sync. And then I thought a couple times he panicked a little bit, pulled the ball down, and did some of those things. And there has been a different demeanor with him during the course of winter and now spring, and also just another step as far as leadership. But I really believe another year in our system is going to benefit him, and it's going to benefit our offense as well. And the other thing, too, I'm encouraged about some of the things I've seen with our receivers. A guy like Wyatt Whelan has posted some really significant improvements with his speed. And there, once again, is a case in point of, can this hungry guy that's worked his tail off, that's had a chip on his shoulder, that came on a walk-on, can he play and can he win at this level? And we got to leverage those guys. I think there's a spot for those guys, and we're going to utilize them well with Cowboy football.
Who are the linebackers that are MIA? Do you expect them back?
Yeah, Cole DeMarzo's out, Easton Gibbs out, and Shea's out also. So they have all had some surgeries that have, we went through a rough year, and, like Easton, I remember seeing Easton, I mean, he was just barely making it from week to week with his shoulder. So those are the guys that are out. Easton's played a lot. It would have been helpful to have Shea out there and certainly Cole, but we have what we have.
Great. When you look at special teams that I mean, how nice is it to return a guy like John Boyle? I mean, a veteran kicker like that.
Well, you know what? It gives us a real sense of comfort. I mean, if you looked at our wins last year, I mean, we were winning playing small ball, and those guys, every field goal, every punt, all those kind of things. That's how we won a lot of games. And to have an experienced guy with his confidence coming back with the same snapper and the same holder, it gives me a real sense of, where we're at. I can remember one of our games, it was a fairly long field goal. And I said field goal team, and I heard a couple of our coaches kind of questioning, can he really kick it that far? And I heard one of our coaches say, we're going to find out, and he did. So it's great to have him. He's kind of got ice running through his veins. He does not have a sense of entitlement. He wants to contribute for the Cowboys.
You talked about the wide receiver spot and a guy who's just really been snake bitten is Gunnar Gentry.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Gunner's been able to go out and practice right now. Today he was in a red shirt jersey, so it was non-contact. We're in hopes that he's going to be able to integrate more. And initially, I don't think he'll have any contact on a Saturday, but he's paid his dues as far as all the issues. And he and I had a really frank conversation as far as where he's going to need to be. He looked like he was going to be a really utilized weapon last year, and when he got hurt, it was tough. And then I think he went in the tank a little bit, whether he wants to play again. And he and I kind of had a really frank conversation. Okay, if you want to play, these things you need to do. He got his degree, and he's moving around well.